Things are not always what they seem. The first appearance deceives many. The intelligence of few perceives what has been carefully hidden in the recesses of the mind. Phaedrus. Think of a local business in your area. Maybe it's a mom and pop shop, a local restaurant, a place that provides useful services. What comes to mind? I personally think of friendly service, a price that is a little higher but worth it since it is local, and a job well done. Now, what if in that business, something more sinister was going on? Right in your town, right under your nose. Would you ever suspect that kind of activity? If so, would you think it was true? Or would you think that you are going crazy? Would you ever think that you, personally, would ever become a victim? There are a ton of questions, but maybe not answers for them on this truly peculiar episode of Snipe Hunt. Welcome to Snipe Hunt, your frightening folklore podcast. I am your host with the ghosts, Darren Young. No house cleaning today, so let's jump right into it. This is going to be a bizarre episode. I am essentially going to cover an allegedly true story, analyze it, and make connections to existing folklore where I can. That may not seem too far from what we normally do here, but I assure you, it's going to take us to places you would have never thought it would. Now, before we jump into our story, let's get some context. Coulter Farms is a family farm located in Honey Grove, Pennsylvania, run by Kenley Coulter and his wife, Rebecca. They produce certified organic, 100% grass-fed dairy products, raw milk cheeses, beef, and lamb. By all appearances, a wholesome family business that produces exceptional dairy and meat products. All of their customers have been extremely happy in their dealings with Coulter Farms and the exceptional products they produce. All except one. Here is where our story begins. An anonymous ex-customer of the family farm has created a website called don'tbuyfromcoulterfarms.net. The owner of the site, whom we will refer to as Redacted, has a long and detailed account of their interaction with Coulter Farms and the event that came after. Here is an excerpt listed on the site right before the full account. Quote, "Before you read any further, I want to make it clear that you should not, under any circumstances, ever purchase anything from coulterfarms.net. If you do, then you are literally inviting hell into your life." Now, let's get into the account itself. The following is a police statement allegedly given to local police by Redacted. Here is a brief description of the interaction I had with Rebecca Coulter before the harassment and assaults started. I purchased $185.58 worth of sharp cheddar cheese from Coulter Farms at coulterfarms.net. The cheese they sent me was so sour and spoiled that when I would bite into it, my face would grimace as if I had bitten into a lemon, so I would spit it out. I contacted Coulter Farms and asked them for a refund, and they said I would have to cover all the shipping charges, including the original shipping on the order, and they would only refund the unopened packs, which would mean I would lose around $130 total even if I returned the unopened packs. Well, obviously I didn't think I should have to lose that much since they sent me rotten cheese, so I opened a dispute on PayPal. PayPal quickly closed the case in favor of Coulter Farms, but I knew that PayPal didn't properly review the case, just based on previous experiences with PayPal disputes. Maybe it was due to COVID-19 or something, but regardless, after the case was closed, I contacted PayPal and escalated my claim to management, and they admitted that they did, in fact, mess up my case. So PayPal actually issued a courtesy credit to my account for the full amount that I paid to Coulter Farms, which was $185.58. This credit was issued on April 23, 2020. At this point, I considered the incident with Coulter Farms to be over and I moved on. But apparently, Rebecca at Coulter Farms didn't think the same thing, because that's almost exactly when they started harassing me. Here is a timeline of key events that have taken place. April 20th. I told one of the Coulter Farms' customers not to buy from them based on my experience with them. April 22nd. Rebecca Coulter started harassing me. April 23rd. I received a full refund from PayPal. May 23rd. I contacted the customer who I told not to buy from Coulter Farms and asked if they told Coulter Farms what I said to them, because I suspected Rebecca was the one who had been disturbing my sleep for the past month, and that night, Rebecca smashed my head into my pillow 3 or 4 times while I was laying on my side in bed. June 2nd. I received a phone call from a Pennsylvania number while I was sleeping. I answered, and they hung up without saying anything. When I called the number back, a message said the number didn't exist. June 2nd. I called the Pennsylvania State Police, who have jurisdiction where Rebecca lives, and talked to
Redacted
and told them that Rebecca had been harassing me and had assaulted me. June 26th. During the daytime, while the entity had been haunting me for over 2 months was bothering me, I demanded that it identify itself. And that night, while I was laying in bed, a girl's voice said, "This is Rebecca." And then I was hit in the head. July 2nd. Rebecca hit me on my ribs while I was laying in bed. July 20th. Rebecca scratched me on my arm while I was laying in bed. August 27th. Rebecca choked me while I was laying in bed. October 1st. Rebecca pressed against my entire body, similar to spooning, while I was laying on my side in bed. I reached my hand back to try to get her off of me, and my hand started shaking violently. October 16th. Rebecca made it feel like I was choking on something like metal shards while I was lying in bed. October 16th. Rebecca caused my shoulder to involuntarily move. It felt like my shoulder that was facing up while I was lying on my side in bed had been violently yanked on. October 26th. Rebecca made me feel like I was suffocating while laying in bed. November 13th. Rebecca choked me several times while I was laying in bed. November 14th. Rebecca attacked me again and woke me up around 2:30 a.m. I called the Pennsylvania State Police at 3:30 a.m. and reported it. November 14th. Rebecca made it feel like my fingertips were burning as if they all had been cut open with a knife. November 18th. Rebecca shocked me while I was laying in bed. In addition to the events listed above, Rebecca has been harassing me in the daytime as well as at night, when I'm in bed, seemingly every day, since they started on April 22nd. I have a journal with daily records. One of the things they have continually done is wake me up all throughout the night. They have literally woke me up hundreds of times. On the worst nights, they wake me up every 1 to 2 hours or more by either making noise, physically hitting me, making my body involuntarily move, making me make whimpering sounds, or by imposing some sort of pressure on my head, sort of like when you go up in an airplane, how you feel pressure in your ears. You can see the disturbance that Rebecca has caused to my sleep in my sleep tracker data, which I have included. Please note that I didn't go more than 1 day in a row with low sleep score before the harassment started. But then I went 18 days in a row, and 26 out of 28 days, with a low sleep record score after the harassment started. Please also note that nothing had changed in my life between the time my sleep scores were normal and became abnormal. Nothing with my job, relationships, family, diet, sleep schedule, etc. had changed. I have a highly regulated daily life in which I weigh all of my food and eat the same things at the same times, do the same basic tasks, and go to sleep at the same time every day. I use an app to remind myself of meal times and bedtime. I also never do any drugs, not even stimulants like caffeine or sugar. Rebecca has also turned on my microwave 10 to 15 times. The property manager can testify the fact that I reported my microwave turning on without me being anywhere near it. Rebecca has also opened my garage door. The assistant property manager can testify to seeing my garage open. This was the first time my garage had been open since I moved in 4 years ago, because I don't have a vehicle and only use it for storage. A security person said they saw it open at 8 p.m. the previous night, so it was open all night, and I have things in there that could have been stolen. I actually had to unplug the electric garage door opener so that Rebecca couldn't open it again. Lastly, I should note that the harassment and assaults have been being done in a supernatural way. So even though Rebecca lives in Honey Grove, Pennsylvania, and I live in
Redacted,
where the harassments and assaults have taken place, Rebecca has the ability to do what I am claiming, and I believe that I can prove they have this ability in court. So here is where we are. Alleged supernatural attacks being perpetrated by Rebecca Coulter on an unsatisfied customer. And redacted person did get the refund they were after. Let's explore what else is on redacted person's website. There is a cease and desist letter allegedly filed by redacted person's lawyer, which reads as follows. Dear Ms. Coulter, I am the attorney representing Redacted. This letter serves as a notice to stop all further actions in accordance with Federal Statute 18 USCS Section 2661A and or state local statutes, including but not limited to hitting, scratching, choking, unwanted touching, emotional abuse, and all types of menacing behavior. These activities constitute harassment, assault, stalking, and cause my client extreme emotional distress. You must stop such activities immediately, as they are in violation of my client's rights. My client will pursue any and all legal remedies available against you if you continue with the aforementioned activities. These remedies include but are not limited to contacting law enforcement and civil damages. This letter acts as your final warning to discontinue this unwanted conduct before my client pursues legal action against you. The site also includes evidence of these strange attacks. Redacted person provides a screenshot of the PayPal refund and sleep tracker data, which shows low sleep scores, indicating their lack of restful sleep. They also provide a photo of their scratched arm, which was allegedly caused by Rebecca Coulter's supernatural attacks. And finally, at the top of the site, Redacted person provides a summary of what a visitor will read below. On this page, I refer to Rebecca Coulter being a devil, because that's what they are, but most would probably call them a witch, since Rebecca is exactly the same as the devils convicted in the Salem witch trials. CoulterFarms.net is owned by a blood-drinking devil named Rebecca Coulter. They have been haunting me for the last 7+ months, ever since I purchased some cheese from them, which was rotten, and told one of their other customers, who runs another farm, to not buy from them. So what exactly is going on here? Is this the work of a spirit in service to Rebecca Coulter? Or maybe Rebecca Coulter herself using some powers as a witch to wreak supernatural revenge on this disgruntled customer? Okay, enough with the spooky tone. I definitely don't think any of this happened the way Redacted Person says it did. I just wanted the first part of this episode to have a tongue-in-cheek, creepy atmosphere. Hopefully you caught on to that. So I'm no doctor, but I think the person who created this website is either the greatest internet troll of all time or severely mentally ill. The paranoia is extremely obvious, and some of the claims, even from a supernatural perspective, are insanely asinine. If anything goes wrong with this person's day, it seems to get blamed on Rebecca Coulter. So just to revisit a couple of those, She received a phone call in the middle of the night from a Pennsylvania number, and when she answered it and hung up without saying anything, and then she tried to call back and the number didn't exist, that's just a spam call. Spammers can spoof numbers to make it look like it's from your local area, even if that number doesn't exist. It's just spam. Nothing supernatural, nothing to worry about. And then another one I liked was the microwave and the garage door. The microwave turning on by itself and the garage door opening by itself. It just sounds like her place has an electrical issue. Her garage door stopped after she unplugged it. So if it was a ghost or some sort of supernatural means opening it, then it wouldn't necessarily need the electricity now, would it? So I don't think this site, don'tbuyfromcoulterfarms.net, actually hurt Coulter Farms, but please support them and your local businesses, especially at this time. Don't let these ridiculous claims affect your judgment on any business. But just for funsies, let's see if we can connect any existing folklore with the claims of redacted persons. I will reiterate that I don't believe Rebecca Coulter has anything to do with what is allegedly happening to Redacted, but I'm going to play devil's advocate throughout this episode and become a supernatural sleuth, a spirit detective, if you will. Here is where we're going to get random, so just bear with me. So if Mrs. Rebecca Coulter is guilty of these allegedly supernatural shenanigans, how would she do this? Well, let's start sleuthing. So our first clue is the last name, Coulter. Coulter is a name of Irish origin, and some of the greatest curses in the world come from Ireland. And by cursing, I don't mean saying or nor do I mean saying or head. Nor do I even mean saying, by Saint Booger and all the saints at the backside door of the purgatory. Okay, maybe that one. That one's a little dated, but I think it still works. I mean an actual curse, a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment. And by greatest curses in the world, I mean the Irish curses sound so badass. Here is a real Irish curse I will use as an example. Don't worry, you're safe to hear it. I think. Bad cess on you, devil take you, may you never prosper. The first drop of water to quench your thirst, may it boil in your bowels. May the flesh rot off your bones, and fall away putrid before your eyes. May your limbs wither, and the stench of your rotten carcass be too horrible for hungry dogs. May you fade into nothing like snow in the summer. May you be accursed in the sight of God and hated by your fellow man. May you die without a priest. May the Almighty's curse rest on your children. This I pray. That was brutal. As a metal musician, I definitely need to incorporate that into one of my songs. Back in pre-Christian Ireland, curses were a way to inflict supernatural justice on evildoers, and these curses would only affect guilty parties. Cursing has always remained a sort of Irish pastime, even well past the Christianization of the Emerald Isle, and even during the witch trials of Europe. To quote Thomas Waters, author of Irish Cursing and the Art of Magic, Irish cursing was a potent art, stemming from moral indignation. The virtuoso but also shocking technique required knowledge, composure, practice, and wit. For victims, it was threatening, disturbing, and humiliating. For the imprecators, cursing could be a means of coercion, a cathartic fantasy of their enemy's destruction, or merely a way of showing off. This psychologically powerful form of magic was deeply rooted in Irish cosmology, tradition, and history. However, it thrived in the modern world of the 19th and early 20th centuries because it functioned not only as a potent weapon, but also as a gruesome therapy and misanthropic coping strategy in fraught times. Cursing was demanding, sophisticated, formidable, and imposing. A magical art like this deserves neither our condescension or a staid and lifeless dissection, but our, perhaps begrudging, respect. So some guy just started mowing like really close to my window, so if you can hear that, I apologize, but I have to record this now. Oh boy. Alright. So is our dear Redacted afflicted by a potent Irish curse? It's a decent candidate, but most Irish curses were wishing general misfortune upon someone. This case seems more like a targeted haunting than a generic curse. Nothing I found on Irish curses included sicking a spirit on someone. Okay, next clue. So all this happened when Redacted purchased some cheese. Is there a link between cheese and the supernatural? Let's find out. In medieval times, dairy was a crucial commodity. Dairy cows provided valuable food and acted as a source of income. So if a cow lost her milk, it might very well doom the family it belonged to. Surely a dried up cow was the result of something supernatural. Maybe it was a fairy that stole the milk, or a witch's spell that afflicted the milkless bovine. Witches were also known to take the form of a rabbit and suckle the cow at night, stealing all the milk. Hedgehogs were also blamed for this. That's why Sonic was so fast. A brown, kind of freaky looking bird called the nightjar was also known to steal milk in this way. Sometimes witches cursed the dairy while it was still in the churn, causing it to not form into butter. This could be dispelled by plunging a red-hot iron poker into the butter churn, driving away the curse. So our victim, Redacted, received some spoiled cheddar and then started experiencing these attacks. So, did they receive some bewitched cheese which left behind a tormenting spirit? I guess it's just as likely as any other supernatural explanation. So there's also some cheese folklore that might provide a more mundane explanation. It has long been thought that eating cheese before bed will cause nightmares. This is really just a rumor started by the character Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' famous work, A Christmas Carol. I've heard of it. Scrooge initially blamed eating a crumb of cheese before bed for causing his nightmarish, ghostly encounters. So is there any real evidence to show that cheese causes nightmares? Well, eating heavy, fatty meals late at night, such as a ton of cheese, can give you indigestion, which in turn disturbs your sleep, which often results in more nightmares, or at least the intact memory of nightmares, because you wake up more often and remember them. But there's nothing about cheese itself that can cause nightmares, so I don't think this is the case, as Redacted did not swallow the sour cheese, nor did they state that they ate cheese every night before bed. But hey, we don't know their life, so maybe they did. So this website got me wondering, are there such things as cheese ghosts in folklore? Maybe a Gouda ghost? A Swiss spirit? A Stilton spectre perhaps? A Gruyere ghoul? A Munster monster? A Brie banshee? A Parmesan phantom? Maybe even an Asiago apparition? Well, much to my surprise, no, not really. The closest thing I could find was a connection between ghosts and cheese graters, which actually seems weirder to me. The Italian province of Undine, or Undine, has its own version of Halloween called the Fiesta delle Muertes, or the Fiesta de Morte, which means Party of the Dead, celebrated on October 31st, in which it is believed that the dead return to visit the world of the living, along with other supernatural creatures such as sprites or elves. And on the night of November 1st, when the veil between the world of the living and dead is still thin, people in Sicily will hide their cheese graters, as the spirits of the dead are known to grate the feet off of misbehaved children. So kids, obey your parents, or you get your feet grated off by the cheese ghosts. The cheese grater ghosts. Now let's take a flight to Japan and revisit the concept of Tsukumogami. We covered this in our Japanese yokai episode, but here is a refresher. A Tsukumogami is an inanimate object that has gained a spirit after 100 years of use and becomes alive and sentient. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Allow me to introduce Yama Oroshi, the porcupine-possessed cheese grater. The name of this peculiar creature is a pun. The Japanese word for porcupine is Yamarashi, and the word for grater is Oroshi. Put them together and you get this abomination. It is said when the blades of a grater go dull and can no longer be used, the slicers transform into spines and the grater grows legs and becomes this beast. None of this has anything to do with our case, but it's all I could find about cheese ghosts, and it's still pretty interesting. I personally thought these spirits were pretty great. If you know of any cheese ghosts or food-related spirits, let me know about them by emailing me at snipehuntpodcast@gmail.com. So now we get to the supernatural explanation I believe best fits the case. But first, we need to know about astral projection. Without getting too detailed, Astral projection, or astral travel, is when one spirit leaves their physical body and can travel via their spiritual body. Very much an out-of-body experience, but you can control where you go, even over great distances. One who has astrally projected themselves can travel through the physical plane or the spiritual plane using their astral body. Going back to Japan, there is a weaponized version of astral projection called an ikiryo, a disembodied vengeful spirit of a living person. If someone holds a strong enough grudge, they can separate their soul from their body and appear as an apparition in front of their victims in order to cause harm, curse, or even possess them. Sounds familiar? Redacted claims that Rebecca Coulter herself is perpetrating these attacks. So, since we are going the supernatural route and playing devil's advocate by considering Redacted to be a victim of Rebecca Coulter's witchcraft, my theory is that Redacted angered Rebecca Coulter by returning her product and forcing a refund, and now Coulter is seeking her vengeance by astrally projecting herself, becoming an Ikiryo, and terrorizing Redacted. But how would a random farmer in Pennsylvania know anything about Japanese ghosts? Well, Pennsylvania has a long history of folk magic and witchcraft, most famously the Pennsylvania Dutch concept of powwow, a faith-healing practice performed by hex doctors. Maybe we'll do a full episode on Pennsylvania Dutch witchcraft in a future episode, but that definitely sounds like a lot of research. With this, we can conclude that it is likely that Rebecca Coulter at the very least knows about witchcraft and may be a witch herself. Modern-day witchcraft is mostly associated with the religion of Wicca, but Rebecca Coulter is likely not Wiccan, as the Wicca Rede, a sort of mission statement for the religion, states that, "Mind the threefold law you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. When misfortune is enow, wear the blue star on thy brow. True in love ever be, lest thy lovers false to thee. 8 words the Wiccan Rede fulfill, and harm ye none, do what ye will." The threefold law is basically whatever you inflict on another will come back 3 times on you, which discourages harmful cursing. And the last line of the Rede states that one must not harm others. That being said, there are spells and curses in witchcraft that can produce what Redacted describes. At least according to the book, Curses, Hexes, and Crossing, by S. Connolly. In this book, the author describes, quote, attacking others astrally and in dreams. It's all kind of vague, but Connolly describes being able to find your enemies through astral projection by knowing the victim's astral key, whatever that is. If you don't know the key, you can always seek spirits, demons, or other deities to help you find your enemy while astral projecting. You can also invade your enemy's dreams like a witchy Freddy Krueger by performing a dream ritual of intent just before bedtime. So here is how the ritual is performed. First, you have to perform this ritual in your bedroom. Second, invoke whatever supernatural forces you want to employ to assist you with this task. The author recommends Aslan, a demon of dreams and divination, and Amdusius, a demon who specializes in the creation of thought forms which indiscriminately seek out and destroy targets. Amdusius is also portrayed as a shirtless hunk with a unicorn's head, at least on the weird side I found information on him on, just so you know. Third, focus specifically on what you want to happen to the victim. Fourth, put sigils of your invoked deities under your pillow or mattress. Fifth, put lavender salve on your temples to promote sleep, and use tiger balm on your third eye. 6. Fall asleep focusing on your victim's face and what you want to do to them when you catch them in your dream. Once you catch them, unleash hell. This one's interesting because it specifically mentions that this spell will not only terrorize your enemy, but interrupt their sleep, which is exactly what Redacted repeatedly mentions throughout the website. And that's it. Kind of a weird episode today. If Redacted is really the victim of paranormal attacks, and if Coulter is the perpetrator, then I think we've solved the case. Case closed. However, I still think Redacted is just mentally ill and paranoid, but at least this site took us on a world tour of lesser-known folklore. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey through randomness. Once again, that site is don'tbuyfromcoulterfarms.net, a play on the actual Coulter Farms site, coulterfarms.net. I highly recommend you visit it just so you can see what's going on. It's pretty interesting. I sincerely hope that Redacted Situations improves, whatever that situation may actually be. If you have any information on these crimes, please email the hotline at snipehuntpodcasts@gmail.com. If you like the show, please leave a rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever else will let you leave a review. It's super important to us, and we really, really appreciate it. Please follow us on social media. We'd love to hear from you guys. We are also on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram, Reddit, and YouTube. We are also on Patreon, and you can get some super exclusive secret bonus content like blooper reel episodes and topic voting for as little as $1 a month. And the $5 tier gets some extra spooky stories if you enjoy that part of our show. Look, you don't have to say subscribe. You can go in, pay your $5 for 1 month, listen to whatever you want to listen to, and get out. Doesn't bug me at all, but it does help with the hosting fees. As usual, if you have a topic suggestion, a question, comment, criticism, or if you have a story that you would like us to share on our Encounters series, please contact us on social media or email us at snipehuntpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to do another Encounters episode, but in order to do that, I need stories. Think back. Maybe you had an experience that you didn't initially think was supernatural, but maybe you're now reconsidering. Surely there was something that happened to you that you can't explain. Those are the perfect stories to send in. You can either record it yourself and email me the recording. I'll definitely play it on a future Encounters episode. If you like metal music, check out my band, Spare the Dead, on Spotify or wherever you listen to music. So, case closed. At least I think so. So now let's end this with the final joke. What did the piece of cheddar say to the ghost? I'm lactose intolerant. Thanks for listening. Sometimes we as humans are afflicted by something we cannot explain. Sometimes it's physical, mental, or maybe even supernatural. But no matter the struggle, it is important that we seek help, either from the self, another person, or a higher power. But rest assured that no matter what, we can endure the storm, whatever that storm may be. We are stronger than we might think. Let that be the one message you take away from this frightening folklore.
Once again, we want to thank you for listening to Snipe Hunt. Your listening has been noted and will be reported to the proper authorities. All audio used was done so under the protection of fair use.
Logo design is by Ethan Rothfuss. The music you heard in this episode was composed by Mayu and Nature World 1986. We'll continue to search for the unexplained, and we'll hopefully see you on the next hunt. The name of this peculiar Damn it. Peculiar. The name of this peculiar creature. Okay.